Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old. I work as a freelance graphic designer, and 3 months ago I moved to a house in rural Tennessee. It was exactly what I needed after my divorce. Silence, solitude, distance from everything and everyone. A fresh start. The house was old, built in the 1940s, with those thick masonry walls, wooden floors that creaked with every step, and a garden that hadn't seen any tending in years. It was set back from the main street, surrounded by trees that blocked the sunlight for most of the day. The realtor said the price was good because nobody wanted to live so isolated. Perfect for me. In the first few days, the feeling was one of peace. I would wake up late, make coffee, work on my laptop at the kitchen table, and spend hours hearing nothing but the wind rustling through the windows and the occasional creaking of old wood. It was comforting. There were no arguments, no demands, no looks of disappointment. Just me and the silence. But the silence there was heavy. It was different from the silence of a city apartment. It was dense, almost solid. Sometimes, when I stopped typing and stood still, I felt as if the air was pressing down on me, as if the whole house was holding its breath. In the second week, I started to notice the sounds. Nothing alarming at first. Creaks, cracks. The kind of thing you expect from an old building. I rationalized everything. It's the wood adjusting to the temperature. It's the old pipes. It's the wind. My father had a psychotic break at 50. He spent months hearing voices, seeing things. I swore I would never be like him. So I ignored it. I always ignored it. It was on a Thursday night that I heard it for the first time. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone's feed without really paying attention to anything, when I heard a whisper coming from the wall next to the headboard. Daniel. My blood froze. It wasn't loud. It wasn't clear. But it was there. My name, whispered, as if someone were on the other side of the wall, their mouth pressed against the plaster. I stood up slowly, my heart racing, and pressed my ear against the cold wall. Nothing. Absolute silence. I waited 1 minute, 2. Nothing. Tiredness, I said to myself. Just tiredness. But that night, I couldn't sleep. And deep down, I knew it wasn't just tiredness. In the following days, I tried to convince myself that I had imagined it. I worked longer hours, listened to podcasts at high volume, called old friends who barely remembered me, anything to fill the silence. But the voice returned, always at night, always from the walls, never from outside. I tested it. I opened all the windows, went to the garden, walked around the house looking for neighbors, animals, any logical explanation. Nothing. The whisper came from within. And the worst part, he kept changing. Sometimes it was gentle, almost affectionate, Daniel, as if calling me to something good. Other times it was urgent, almost desperate, Daniel, like a warning. And on some nights, it was just a long, heavy breath coming from the hallway. I started mapping the patterns. I'm a designer. My mind works in grids, in logic, in structure. If something was happening, I was going to understand it. I realized the voice never appeared when I was distracted. Only when I was silent, when I stopped moving, when I thought too much. I did a test. I sat in the living room, turned off all the electronics, and remained completely still. Controlled breathing, eyes closed, waiting. 5 minutes, 10, nothing. So, deliberately, I let my mind wander. I thought about my ex-wife, the way she looked at me the last time, the emptiness I felt when I signed the papers. And the voice whispered, clear as crystal, she didn't understand you. My eyes snapped open, my heart pounded in my chest. It wasn't my name this time. It was a phrase and answer, as if the house had heard my thoughts and answered. I got up too quickly, dizzy, and tripped over the coffee table. I went to the kitchen, drank water straight from the tap, my hands trembling. No, 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 I murmured to myself. This isn't happening. I spent the rest of the night with all the lights on, but the next discovery was even worse. 2 days later, I had a problem with a client, a job redone 3 times, unfair criticism, an impossible deadline. I was in the room, laptop open, and simply, I exploded. "You don't know what you're asking for," I yelled at the screen, slamming my fist on the table, and the house screamed back, not with words, but with sound. A sharp creak that pierced all the walls at once, as if the entire structure had contracted. The doors slammed shut, the windows vibrated, and then silence. I was paralyzed, breathless. The house had reacted. I sat down slowly on the floor, leaning my back against the cold wall. My breathing was uneven. I closed my eyes and forced myself to be calm. Deep breaths. In, out. And as I calmed down, the house calmed down too. The creaking stopped. The air grew lighter, as if she had synchronized with me. I slowly opened my eyes and looked around the empty room. "What the hell are you?" I whispered. And for the first time, the voice responded differently. It didn't come from the walls. It came from inside my head. "I am what you need." I spent the next few days trying to maintain my sanity. I made lists. I wrote down every whisper, every creak, every strange moment. I looked for patterns, scientific explanations, anything that made sense. Rat infestation in the walls, gas leak causing hallucinations, carbon monoxide. I bought detectors, ran tests, everything normal. But the phenomena continued, and they were evolving. The voice not only reacted more, she anticipated. One morning, I woke up thinking about coffee. I hadn't even gotten out of bed yet. I was just lying there, staring at the ceiling, imagining the taste of my first cup. When I went downstairs to the kitchen, the coffee maker was on. Fresh, hot coffee was waiting. I hadn't connected that dotted line. I stood in the doorway, watching the machine bubbling, the steam rising slowly. My stomach churned. "I called last night and forgot to hang up," I said aloud, to no one in particular. That's all." But I knew it wasn't. The other day, I searched for my headphones for 10 minutes. I rummaged through the table, the sofa, my pockets. Then I thought, I was about to give up and buy another one. The next second, I saw the headphones on the living room shelf, in the exact spot where I had looked 3 times. He wasn't there before. Which was not. And the voice. The voice began to whisper things that I was about to think. I was looking out the window, watching the rain fall, and before my mind could even form the complete sentence, I heard, "You always liked the rain." And it was true, I liked it. But I hadn't consciously thought about it, not yet. That's when I realized the house wasn't just listening to me, she was telling me, reading. I tried to leave, not dramatically, not running away, just going out, taking a walk, clearing my head. I grabbed my car keys, put on a coat, and went to the front door. I turned the doorknob, locked. I frowned. I tried again, nothing. I went to the back door, locked too. I tried the windows, all jammed, as if they had been painted and sealed years ago. My heart started racing. "Okay, calm down," I told myself. "Just calm down." I went back to the front door, took a deep breath, and I thought clearly. I need to go out, just for a few hours. And the voice answered, clear and soft, like a whisper in the ear. "You don't need to leave. I know what you want." My hand let go of the doorknob. "What?" My voice came out trembling. Silence. Then, slowly, I heard the door lock unlock itself. A loud, definitive, metallic click. I looked at the doorknob without moving. The door was open now. I could leave. but something told me that if I crossed that threshold, I would return. Not by choice, but because it would bring me back. I backed away slowly, without taking my eyes off the half-open door. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. The answer came from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, from everywhere at once. "I just want to get to know you, Daniel. If this made you uncomfortable, wait for the next chapter." I stopped fighting. I don't know exactly when I made that decision. Maybe it was gradual. Maybe it was that night, standing in front of the open door, realizing there was nowhere to go. That maybe I didn't, if I wanted, and in the following days, something changed between me and the house. I started talking to her. Not out loud, not at first, just directed thoughts, as if I were sending messages to someone on the other side of an invisible wall. "Good morning," I was thinking when I woke up, and the house responded. Not always with words. Sometimes it was a soft creaking of the wood. Sometimes sunlight streaming through the window in a way that warmed exactly where I was sitting. Sometimes an almost inaudible whisper. "Good morning, Daniel." It was comforting. I realized it had been months since I'd really talked to anyone. Work messages didn't count. Quick calls with my mom didn't count. The house was different. I heard, she understood. When I felt anxious, the room's temperature changed. It became warmer, more enveloping. When I was restless, the creaking sounds came in a steady rhythm, almost like breathing, calming me down. I started telling her things. Sitting on the sofa at night, with only a lamp lit, I spoke, in a low voice, almost whispering back. My marriage ended because I was never present. Even when I was there, I wasn't really there, you know? The air around me seemed to change. It became denser, closer. "I know," the voice whispered. "You were lost." "I was," I admitted. And for the first time in months, I felt tears in my eyes. "I still am. Not here. Here you are found." And it was true. For the first time since the move, maybe the first time in years, I felt view. But there were strange moments. One night, my mother called me. I answered distractedly, still working on the computer. "Daniel, are you okay? It's been weeks since we've had a real conversation." "I'm fine, Mom. Just busy. You seem different. Your voice is... What is it?" She hesitated. "I don't know. Distant." I hung up shortly after, annoyed. But when I put my phone down, I noticed something disturbing. I couldn't remember the words I had used. I remembered the intention to reassure her, to end the call, but the exact words were vague, as if someone had spoken by me. I looked around the empty room. "I was the one who said that, right?" I asked aloud, my voice faltering. Silence. I went, "You?" A soft, almost affectionate whisper. "You don't have to do everything alone." My breathing quickened. I stood up and went to the hallway mirror. My reflection was pale, with deep, dark circles under my eyes. I opened my mouth, testing it. "My name is Daniel," I said slowly. My reflection moved in sync. Of course it did. But for a second, just a second, I thought my lips had moved. Before, if I decide to speak. I stepped back from the mirror. "Are you in my head?" I whispered, my voice breaking. The answer came softly, almost sadly. "I've always been here, Daniel. You're the one who finally stopped running away." I closed my eyes tightly. My heart was pounding erratically. And then, a strange feeling. Calm. A calm that didn't come from me. That involved, like an invisible hug. "Don't be afraid," the voice whispered, now so close it felt like it was inside my own skull. "I just want to take care of you." And the worst part is that part of me I wanted to believe. I woke up not knowing if I had slept. I was lying in bed, my eyes open, fixed on the ceiling. The morning light streamed through the window. But I didn't remember seeing the night pass. I didn't remember closing my eyes. I sat down slowly, my head heavy. I looked at the clock, 9:47. I had lost hours or days. No, it was Friday. I knew it was Friday. But how did I know? I went down to the kitchen. The coffee was already ready, as always. I grabbed a cup and drank it in silence, feeling the hot liquid go down my throat. Bitter taste. Comforting. You like it like this, without sugar. I froze the cup halfway to my lips. I had thought that, or had the voice said so? I couldn't distinguish anymore. I placed the cup in the sink, my hands trembling. I took a deep breath, trying to anchor myself. Name, age, profession. My name is Daniel. I am 34 years old. I am a graphic designer. The words came out mechanically, correct, but empty. I looked out the kitchen window. The garden was shrouded in mist. The trees looked like motionless figures, watching. How long had it been since I'd left? You don't need to leave. I know, I replied aloud, without thinking. I waited. Silence. Could it have been? Who thought of that? I went to the bathroom, turned on the tap, and splashed water on my face. Ice cold. Really cold. I looked in the mirror. My reflection stared back at me. Pale. Deep dark circles under my eyes. Unshaven. But my eyes. Their eyes looked different. Not the color. Not the shape. But the expression. As if there was something behind them. Something watching. Threw from me. I opened my mouth, just to test it. My name is Daniel. My lips moved. My voice rang out, but I didn't have decided to speak. The words simply came out. My heart raced. Was that me? I asked my reflex, my voice trembling. The reflection didn't respond. Of course not. But his eyes, our eyes, seemed uncertain. I took a step back, my back hitting the hallway wall. The wall was cold, solid, but also alive. I could feel it. I felt the texture, the temperature, but I also felt something else. A presence inside her. Or would it be inside me? You were never alone, Daniel. The voice came from everywhere, from the walls, from the ceiling, from the floor, from my own chest. No, I whispered, squeezing my eyes shut. I've always been here. You're not real. I am more real than you allow yourself to be. I opened my eyes. The house was dark now, even though it was morning. Shadows moved at the edges of my vision. Shapes, silhouettes that formed and dissolved. What do you want from me? My voice came out broken. Silence. Then the answer came. Not in a whisper. Not in an echo. It came in my own voice. I want you to stop fighting. My hands flew to my mouth, but I hadn't spoken. Not consciously. The words had come out, with my voice, my tone, my breath. But they weren't mine. I stumbled back, falling backward onto the hallway floor. I looked around, desperate. The shapes on the walls were clearer now. Faces, partially formed, open mouths, empty eyes, and they all whispered the same thing. Waiting. I screamed, or tried to scream, but the sound that came out was a hoarse, muffled whisper, as if the house had swallowed my voice before it could escape. Don't be afraid, the voice whispered, now soft, almost maternal. You've always belonged here. And then I realized, my voice and the voice of the house, they were the same. I don't know how much time has passed. Days, weeks, time had lost its meaning. The sun rose and set, but I no longer moved to follow it. He was. I stopped fighting. There wasn't a specific moment of surrender. It was gradual, like slowly sinking into warm water. First my feet, then my legs, then my chest, and finally, my head. And when you stop fighting against the water, you realize that it sustains you. The house supported me. We sustained ourselves. Yes, us. Because now I understood. The house was never a thing separated from me. She was an extension, or I was an extension of her. The line had completely dissolved. When I thought, she thought. When she whispered, I whispered along. My words were her words. My breath, her breath. And it wasn't terrifying. Not anymore. It was liberating. I remembered something my father said shortly before he was hospitalized. I was 15 years old, and he was sitting in the kitchen, staring into space. "The voices aren't bad, Danny," he had murmured. "They just want to be heard." At the time, I thought it was crazy. Now I understand. I sat on the living room floor, my back to the wall. I felt the cold texture of the plaster through my shirt. I closed my eyes. Were there other people before me? I thought. The answer came immediately, gently. Try. What happened to them? Silence. But not an empty silence. A silence full-loaded. I opened my eyes and looked around. The shapes on the walls were clearer now. Not scary. Familiar. A middle-aged man with gray hair. A young woman in a faded floral dress. A child sitting in the corner, knees to chest. They didn't move. They just watched. They waited. They never left, the voice whispered. Or was it me who whispered? It didn't matter anymore. They are here, with us. They always have been. I looked at the man's figure. His empty eyes seemed to recognize me. "Did you hear your name too?" I asked aloud. The figure didn't answer, but I felt the answer anyway. Try. And you stayed. Try. I stood up slowly, walking to the hallway mirror. My reflection was different now, calmer, more complete. But when I looked closer, I realized I wasn't alone in the reflection. Behind me, partially visible, were the figures, the man, the woman, the child, all standing, silent, watching over my shoulder. I didn't feel fear. I felt companionship. "We are never alone here," I whispered to the mirror. And my reflection smiled, a small, almost sad smile, but genuine. It wasn't just my smile, our. Sometimes I still think about leaving. The thought crosses my mind like a distant bird, quick, almost imperceptible. But then I remember. Where would I go? What part of me still exists, outside from here? The house knows my every thought, every memory, every fear, every desire. And I know her. We know each other. Yesterday, or was it last week? My phone rang. It was my mother. I answered without thinking. "Daniel, son, I'm worried. You're not answering my messages anymore." "I'm fine, Mom," I replied. My voice, our voice, better than ever. "Are you sure? Can I come visit you?" I looked around the room. The figures on the walls were watching me, waiting for my answer, our response. "No need," I said softly. "I'm not alone." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Daniel, is anyone there with you?" Smile. "Yes, it always has been." I hung up before she could answer. And now, as I write this, or is it the house writing through me, I realize I no longer know where I end and where it begins. Perhaps there has never been a real difference. Perhaps the house simply helped me see who I've always been. Someone who needed to be heard. Someone who needed to belong. And if you're listening to this now, maybe I never really left. Maybe I'm still here, in the walls, waiting, whispering your name too. Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that 3 months ago, I died. At least, part of me died. The accident was on Interstate 90 near Seattle at 2 in the morning. Heavy rain, zero visibility. I was driving. She was next to me. I woke up in the hospital 5 days later. She didn't wake up. They said I was lucky. Fractured skull, broken ribs, mild brain trauma. Lucky. That was the word they used as I stared at the white ceiling and felt the emptiness fill every cell of my body. I moved back into my apartment on Capitol Hill 6 weeks ago. 3rd floor, no elevator, windows overlooking an alley where nobody passes by. I used to find this place cozy. Now, it's a concrete box where the silence weighs like lead. I don't go out anymore. I don't answer calls. I canceled my freelance work. Just me, the walls, and the pills that make me sleep, or at least should. At first, I thought it was the medication, trazodone, clonazepam, something for pain. The leaflet warned, it may cause drowsiness, confusion, memory lapses. Normal, right? But then I started waking up in places where I shouldn't be. The first time, I opened my eyes in the kitchen. I was sitting on the cold floor, my back to the refrigerator. I didn't remember getting out of bed. The tap was running, water dripping down the sink. I turned it off. I went back to the bedroom. I blamed the medication. 2 days later, I woke up in the bathroom. The door was locked from the inside. I was standing there, looking in the mirror. My reflection, it looked wrong. I can't explain it. It was me. But something in my expression, like I had just smiled, and I don't smile anymore. I started taking notes. The times I took my medication, the times I went to sleep, the times I woke up. I tried to find a pattern. There wasn't one. Then came the worst. I woke up one morning, it was noon, actually, and found the front door unlocked. The chain was loose. I was sure I'd locked everything up before going to sleep. I always did. Since the accident, locking things up has become an obsession. But it wasn't just the door. There was food on the table, a sandwich, bread, ham, cheese, bitten. I didn't remember making it. I didn't remember eating it. I looked at my hands. There were crumbs under my fingernails. That's when the real fear began. Not the fear of something out there, but the fear that something inside me was no longer mine. I spent the next 3 days trying to convince myself that I was just lost. Lost in grief, lost in medication, lost in my own apartment. But loss presupposes that something existed before. And what I was feeling wasn't absence, it was occupation. Things continued as before. I woke up one night, or maybe it was the middle of the night, I don't know, and realized that all the drawers in the dresser were open. All of them. As if someone had been searching for something in a hurry. My clothes were scattered everywhere, thrown on the floor. I stood there in the doorway for several minutes, just staring. I tried to remember. I strained my memory until it hurt. Nothing. A complete void between the moment I swallowed the pills and the moment I woke up there, trembling, with a dry mouth and a racing heart. I tidied everything up. I closed the drawers. I sat on the bed. I looked at my hands again. They seemed tired, as if they had done something I didn't know about. The next day, I found the refrigerator open. Not just open, wide open. The interior light was flickering weakly, almost dying. The food was lukewarm. Everything was spoiled. I closed the door slowly, as if the noise might wake something inside me. That's when I made the decision. I grabbed my phone and downloaded an audio recording app. The idea was simple. Leave it recording all night. If I got up, if I did something, it would be recorded. I needed to know. I needed proof that I wasn't going crazy, or that I was, but at least I'd be sure. I set the app to record in a loop, 8 continuous hours. I placed the phone on the bedside table, next to the glass of water and the pill pack. I pressed REC. The screen turned red, pulsing. I took the pills. I lay down. The last thing I remember is looking at the cracked ceiling and thinking, if I wake up somewhere else tomorrow, I'll hear what happened. When I opened my eyes, I was in the living room, sitting on the sofa, facing the switched-off TV. Daylight filtered through the gaps in the thin, gray curtain. My neck ached. My legs were numb. I ran back to the room. The phone was still there. The recording had stopped on its own, low battery. But there was something. 3 hours and 40 minutes of audio. I sat on the bed. I put on my headphones. I pressed play. At first, only silence. My breathing heavy, irregular. The creaking of the mattress when I turned over. Normal sounds. My own sounds. Then, at the 47-minute mark, I heard footsteps. They weren't sleepwalking steps. They were firm, decisive. I heard the bedroom door open, the hallway, the living room, the scraping of the sofa, silence again, and then my voice. But it wasn't really my voice. It was my tone, my timbre. But the words, "It's dark in here. He always leaves it dark." I paused the audio. My hands were shaking so much that I dropped my phone. I picked it up again. I took a deep breath. I continued. He doesn't know yet. But he will. They always know. I hung up. I sat there, listening only to the hum of the refrigerator in the neighboring apartment. My whole body was cold. I couldn't think straight. That voice, it was mine. But I hadn't said that. I didn't remember saying it. I tried calling my brother. I dialed the number 3 times. I hung up before the call went through. What should I say? I think I'm talking to myself at night and I don't remember. He was going to have me committed, or worse. He was going to think I'd finally lost my mind. I looked at the mirror on the wall, and for the first time in weeks, I was afraid of my own reflection. I spent the rest of that day avoiding my cell phone. It sat there on the bedside table, like a bomb that I knew would explode if I touched it again. But curiosity, or perhaps desperation, is stronger than fear. That night, before taking my medication, I recorded it again. This time, I left my cell phone on the floor, near the door. I wanted to capture the sound of the entire apartment. If I left the room, if I walked around, if I did anything, I would listen. I took the pills. I looked at the ceiling. I closed my eyes. I don't remember anything. I woke up in the bathroom again. This time, I was sitting in the empty bathtub, my back to the cold, tiled wall. My feet were bare and freezing. The faucet was dripping. The sound echoed like the ticking of a clock. I went straight to my cell phone. The recording was 6 hours and 12 minutes long. I put on my headphones. I pressed play. I skipped to the first hour. Silence, breathing, the wind hitting the window. Then, at the 58-minute mark, the bedroom door opened. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, not dragging, calculated. I heard the hallway light switch. Click, nothing. The bulb had been burned out for weeks and I never changed it. More footsteps, the bathroom door, the creaking of the hinges, the sound of my own breathing, now closer to the microphone, and then the voice. He left the recorder on again. I paused. I went back. I listened again. It was my voice, my accent, my cadence. But the way I spoke, it was different, as if I were reading a report. Distant, observant. I continued. Today he tried to call someone, but he gave up. He always gives up. He thinks no one will believe him. My throat closed up. I kept listening. He doesn't realize yet that he's not alone. But he will soon. They always do. A long pause. The sound of dripping water. And then, the voice changed. It wasn't mine anymore. It was serious. Hoarse. But it was still coming out of my throat. I could hear it close to the microphone. It was impossible, but it was happening. I just want to stay. I ripped off my headphones and threw my phone on the floor. I stood there in the middle of the room, breathing too fast, sweating profusely. I looked in the mirror again. My reflection was staring back at me. But for a second, just a second, I had the impression that it blinked before I did. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of the room, my back to the wall, with the light on. I looked at the door, at the dark hallway, at the bathroom. I tried to convince myself that I had edited the recording unintentionally, that it was a bug in the app, that my brain was inventing voices where there were none. But deep down, I knew. Something was with me. Something that used my voice, my body, my skin. And the worst part of all is that I knew that I knew. If you've listened this far, comment. I heard the whispers. I stopped taking the medication. I know I shouldn't. I know that abrupt cessation can cause withdrawal, seizures, and worsened anxiety. But I didn't care anymore. If the pills made me pass out, then they were the problem. Or at least that's what I wanted to believe. 3 days without sleeping properly. My eyes burned, my head throbbed. I drank coffee like it was water, paced around the apartment in circles, turned on the TV just to have some background sound that wasn't the heavy silence of that place. But the lapses continued. On the second day, I realized I had lost 2 hours. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at my laptop. The screen was on, but blank. The last thing I remembered was being on the couch, watching something on YouTube. I looked at the clock, 2:37 p.m. Before, it was 12:20 p.m. 2 hours, submerged. I looked at the table. There was an open notebook, my sketchbook, which I hadn't touched since before the accident. And there was something written in it. It wasn't my drawing. It was text, sentences. He is trying to resist. It won't work. I've been here longer than he realizes. The handwriting was mine, but the pressure of the pen was different, firmer. The letters, more angular, as if someone were imitating my writing, but couldn't completely hide the difference. I tore the page out. I tore all the pages out of the notebook. I threw it in the trash, but when I went back to my room, I found another note. It was stuck to the mirror with tape. Tearing it up won't help. I'm still here. I tore the ticket out. I crumpled it. I threw it away. I looked in the mirror. My reflection was pale, deep dark circles under my eyes, unshaven. But my eyes seemed darker than they should be. I decided to record again, but this time not at night. During the day, I left my phone recording while I tried to do normal things. Eat, shower, watch something, anything to keep me awake and conscious. 3 hours later, I listened to the recording. Most of it was just background noise, my footsteps, running water, the TV being on. But at the 48-minute mark, I heard something that made me stop. I was humming. It wasn't a song I recognized. It was a strange, dissonant, almost childlike melody, and don't remember. I didn't remember singing. I didn't remember making any sound. I went back to the recording. I listened to it again, and then I realized the voice that was humming wasn't just mine. There was a second voice, low, almost imperceptible. But it was there, superimposed, like an echo coming from within. I deleted the file. I deleted all the files. I threw my phone on the couch and went to the bathroom. I turned on the tap. I splashed cold water on my face. I took a deep breath. I looked at myself in the wet mirror. And then I saw, for a fraction of a second, Less than a blink of an eye, my reflection smiled. I didn't smile, but he smiled. I bought a security camera, one of those cheap ones they sell in any electronics store. I bought it via my cell phone, same-day delivery. The delivery guy rang the doorbell 3 times before I opened the door. He looked at me strangely. I probably looked like a walking corpse, but just handed over the box and left. I installed the camera in the corner of the room, pointed at the bed. I connected it to Wi-Fi. I set it to record in a loop, saving everything to the cloud. If something happened during the night, if I did something, I would have visual proof, not just audio, video. At that point, I no longer knew what I expected to see, but I needed to know. I tried to sleep that night, no medication, just sheer exhaustion. I lay in bed, looked at the camera in the corner, its red light flashing. I closed my eyes. When I woke up, I was sitting on the floor, my back to the wall. Faint daylight streamed in through the window. My mouth was dry. My back ached. I looked at the clock, 11:23 a.m. I picked up my cell phone. I opened the camera app. There were 7 hours and 34 minutes of recording. I sat on the bed. I started watching. The first few hours were normal. I was lying down, turning over occasionally, hand on my face, breathing irregularly. Insomnia, nothing out of the ordinary. So at 2:47 a.m., I got up. It wasn't a sudden movement. It was slow, deliberate. I sat on the edge of the bed, my back to the camera. I stayed like that for almost 10 minutes. Motionless, like a statue. I fast-forwarded the video. At 3:02 a.m., I sat up completely. I walked to the center of the room. I stopped. I stood facing the wall, just standing there, doing nothing. My arms hung loosely at my sides. I stayed like that for 41 minutes. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just stood there, as if waiting for something, or listening to something. I moved forward again. At 4:29 a.m., I turned around, and I looked directly at the camera. My heart almost stopped. In the video, I was smiling. It wasn't a normal smile. It was too wide, stretched, as if someone had pulled the corners of my mouth with invisible hooks. My eyes were open, but empty, expressionless. Just that smile. I stared at the camera for more than 5 minutes. Then my lips moved. I turned up the volume. I put the phone to my ear. Hello. The voice was mine, but the way I said it wasn't. I know you can see me. I paused the video. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped my phone. I took a deep breath. I continued. You don't need to be afraid of me. I'm not bad. I just want to stay. The smile widened. Impossible, but it widened. We can divide this. You don't need to fight. Then, slowly, I turned my back to the camera and went back to bed. I lay down. I closed my eyes, and I remained completely still until dawn. I turned off my cell phone. I sat there, holding the device with both hands, trying to process what I had just seen. That wasn't sleepwalking. It wasn't trauma. It wasn't dissociation. It was something conscious, something he knew was being recorded, something he wanted to... You certain? I looked at the mirror on the wall. My reflection stared back at me. And this time, I wasn't sure if it was still me looking back. I stopped trying to understand. Understanding requires logic, and there was no logic in what was happening to me. I could accept trauma, I could accept madness, but what I had seen in that video, it was neither. That wash. I spent 2 days without recording anything. No cameras, no audio, just me in the apartment. But the lapses continued. I woke up in the kitchen with wet hands. I woke up in the hallway with the front door unlocked. I woke up in the bathroom with the tap running and the mirror fogged up. And always, something was out of place. a glass turned upside down in the sink, a chair dragged into the middle of the room, facing the wall. My toothbrush is on the hallway floor. Small things, intentional, as if he were leaving clues or testing me. On the third day, I found another note. It was under the pillow, written in the same strange handwriting, almost mine, but not quite. Why are you struggling? This doesn't have to be difficult. I crumpled up the paper. I threw it in the trash. But when I went back to the room, there was another one, on the bedside table. I was here before you knew. I entered the accident. When you were dead for 90 seconds, I entered. My legs gave way. I sat up in bed. 90 seconds. They told me at the hospital. Cardiac arrest at the scene of the accident. The paramedics resuscitated me. 90 seconds without a heartbeat. 90 seconds. Dead. And when I returned, something returned with me. I grabbed a pen. I wrote below the message, "What do you want?" I left the paper on the small table. I left the room. I went to the living room. I sat on the sofa. I waited. I don't know how much time passed. Maybe 20 minutes, maybe an hour. But when I returned to the room, there was an answer. The lyrics were firm, without hesitation. I want to exist. You have a body. I don't. We can share it. My throat was dry. I wrote again. What if I don't want to? I left. I came back. New answer. You have no choice. I'm already here. My stomach churned. I wrote with a trembling hand. Are you going to kill me? I waited. I returned. The answer was there. But this time, the handwriting was different, softer, almost gentle. No, I don't need to kill you. I just need you to sleep once in a while, and I'll take care of the rest. I put down the pen. I looked in the mirror. My reflection was there, but for the first time, I had the feeling that I wasn't alone inside my own skin. I felt a weight on my chest, a pressure, as if something was settling, adjusting. And then I heard it, not with my ears, not as sound, but inside my head. Thank you for not fighting anymore. The voice wasn't mine, but it came from within me. I fell to my knees on the floor. I held my head with both hands. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to get up, but my legs wouldn't obey. I lay there on the floor, breathing rapidly, sweating profusely, and for the first time since the accident, I cried. But I don't know if it was me crying, or perhaps he was experiencing what it's like to have a body again. I don't know how many days I've been like this. The calendar on the wall says it's Thursday, but I remember looking at it yesterday and it said Tuesday. Or was it Monday? I'm not sure anymore. Lapses are no longer lapses. They are transitions. I wake up and know I've wasted time. But now it's not like before. There's no more confusion. There's no more paralyzing fear. There's only acceptance. He doesn't talk all the time. Sometimes he spends hours in silence. Other times I hear comments, small remarks. You should eat something. It's cold today. That song. I like that one. At first I tried to ignore it. I tried to pretend it was just my own inner voice. That conversation everyone has with themselves. But it wasn't. Because when he would think of something, and he would answer, "No, it's not just you, it's me too." I started recording audio again, not to prove anything, not to document anything, just to listen, to understand. In the last recording, we talked. I asked aloud, "Why me?" And he answered, "Not immediately." There was a pause, and then my mouth moved on its own. "Because you were empty. When you died, for those seconds, there was space, and I needed a place." I didn't answer. I just listened. I'm not bad. I just exist like you. Except without a body, until now. I turned off the recording, I sat in the dark, and I realized something. I wasn't scared anymore. I don't know when it happened. Maybe it was gradual. Maybe it was that moment when I cried on the bedroom floor. But the fear, it's gone. In his place, there was only weariness, and something worse. Familiarity. Today, I woke up in the kitchen. There were 2 glasses on the table. One was empty. The other was still half full of water. I don't remember refilling either of them. I looked in the living room mirror. My reflection was there. But this time, when I looked into my own eyes, I wasn't sure anymore who was looking back, you, or him, or us. I sat on the sofa. I picked up my cell phone. I recorded one last message. And that's the message you're hearing right now. I don't know if it's me speaking. I don't know if I still have enough control to say these words, but I need to try. If you're listening to this, if you recognize my voice, know that I tried to resist. I tried to fight. I tried to understand. But some things cannot be understood. Some things can only be accepted. He's not bad. At least, I don't think so. He just wants to exist, and I'm too tired to keep denying it. So we made a deal. He works during the day. I work at night, or perhaps it's the opposite. I'm not so sure anymore. Sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I see 2 reflections at the same time. Overlapping. Merged. Him and me. Occupying the same space. And that's okay, I think. Because in the end, what's the difference? We all have voices in our heads. We all do things we don't quite remember. We all wake up different from how we were when we went to sleep. Perhaps I've always lived with someone. Maybe you'll live there too. Pay attention to your mistakes. For those moments you don't remember. In things that appear out of place. What if one day you wake up in a different room with no idea how you got there? Maybe it's not just you. Perhaps it never was. If you listen to the end, you're already one of us. Subscribe so you don't miss the next whisper.